Hi everyone, Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy, stuffing up Spy Curious, episode 319, before it's even started by having myself in the wrong camera position. 319 weekly episodes of investigation news for licensed private investigators, government investigators and corporate investigators throughout Australia. In this week news, it's very sad news down in Tasmania. A police officer was shot dead by a person he was serving an eviction notice on in northwestern Tasmania. An awful situation. 3 police officers attended, and one of them was fatally wounded in that attendance. In where I live at Sanctuary Cove, at the fish and chip shop locally, one of the staff is suing them for $500,000 in relation to a works compensation injury lifting heavy pots. This is a typical injury with chefs and workers' compensation around Australia. So that's some of the news this week. Please say hello in the chat if you're watching, people. Hi, Amber, great to see you. Hope it's a beautiful day down in Canberra. I'm sure it is. Back to my news. There are a lot of jobs available this week. I can't keep up with the job vacancies. There's just too many. If you're looking for a job as a licensed private investigator, a government investigator or a corporate investigator, this is the page you've got to go to. It's the Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigators jobs page. When you go to that page, people, what that means is you've got to answer 2 questions. Are you an Australian citizen? Are you looking for work as a licensed private investigator, government investigator, whatever? If you answer yes to both those and you're not a robot, I will ensure that you are allowed access after a couple of hours, and you can look up job vacancies such as the ones you're about to see. G'day, Nenad. Great to see you, mate. Thanks for checking in. Hi, Courtney. Thanks for saying hello. Really good to see you. Yeah, happy Friday. Emily has just won the Australian Security Academy Investigator of the Decade Award. Basically, hi, Candy. Great to see you. Thanks for saying hello. G'day, Jai. Great to see you, mate. But Emily, during Investigations Uni, was able to identify this mysterious person that we had in a mock-up I'll show you what Emily did. She did a really good job of this. She had to guess who this person was in this photo. Now, I've got it somewhere. I don't know what I've done with it. Here it is. So hi to everybody watching from the Criminal Conduct Surveillance Team up in Brisbane. If you don't know what CC stands for, CCC stands for, it stands for Cool Covert Cardigans for Undercover Agents. What Emily's task was over at Investigations Uni was to identify the man in the middle wearing the scarf around his neck. Now, you all know him. 1 billion people know him, and Emily had to identify him from this photograph in the middle there, taken in the 1960s for Peyton's knitwear, okay, because public servants wear knitwear, and that's what I used it for. And basically, she was able to identify who he was, the first program that he starred in, and also 2 police programs that he was in. That was a photo taken in the late 1960s, and Emily found out. So how good, people, is Emily? She has achieved Private Investigator of the Decade. Well done, Emily. Congratulations. You get balloons for that. All right, well done. You did a lot of research to find out who that was. And there are people here wondering who it was. We're not going to tell them. No, we'll tell them at the end of the program today. Okay, so everybody's going to be left wondering. Look, there's some great jobs out there today, people, apart from the fact that Emily is Investigator of the Decade. Senior Investigator for Corruption Prevention is wanted in New South Wales. So if you want to earn up to $138,510 plus superannuation, and you hold a Diploma of Government Investigation, that's a great job opportunity over in New South Wales. Here's a beauty, this one, all around the country, work from home, desktop investigators required by vendor management. Vendor management, great team at vendor management. They really look after Australian security graduate students. If you're an Australian security graduate student, I recommend that you basically watch that. Emily's very, very pleased with her balloons. Good on you. So vendor management, great team there. Apply for that job, people. Okay, they want to hear from you. Open source intelligence analyst is one by Nemesis Consulting Group in New South Wales. They've been established for years, these guys and girls, right? And they want you to do what Casey talks about all the time, OSINT. So if you've been watching Investigations Uni and you've been going to the presentations on OSINT and you know your way around that sort of stuff, work from home, okay? Nemesis Consulting, established investigation agency, great team at Nemesis Consulting, right? They want to hear from you and they want you to work for them. So great opportunity there. Here's one in Brisbane for licensed private investigators. Start at the top. You won't get a better start than G. Hughes and Associates if you can score that one. Really great job opportunity with G. Hughes and Associates over in Brisbane. So that's what's happening there. So today I'm going to go through some issues that arose out of Investigations Uni a year or so back. Investigations Uni is our CPD support program for private investigators. There it is. Every week we have CPD support for our students and we let them know what's going on. And Sean Delaney and I talked you through 3 episodes of winning tenders as an investigation professional. So we actually went through 3 episodes. We dedicated, it's so important, we dedicated 3 episodes to it. And we talked about being, the supplier, and we talked about, we went through some specific tenders, this one for vetting services, and we told you all about non-compliances in tenders and the things that make them rip up contracts. So we went through that and we covered it at Investigations Uni because it's very important for our students, our graduate students, to understand when they win a tender, there's a lot at risk. And when you win a tender and you're working for an investigation agency and you do something that's misaligned to that tender that's specified in it, then the place you're working for could lose a $3 million or a $5 million contract annually just because you did something outside the specifications of that tender. Now, it's come to pass this year in Queensland that the Criminal Conduct Commission, who do money laundering investigations for cryptocurrency like the AFP do and local police do and all that sort of thing, they decided that they needed some training for their staff in digital assets and the security of them and how it relates to investigations. It was one of the recommendations in a report that was made about the CCC after a few issues a couple of years back. In that report, which was published, the report was glowing on IBAC in Victoria and how it was the model corruption commission in Australia. Well, I don't think they've ever spoken to ICAC, and I think they should have before they wrote that report. That's very important. What have we got here? Emily, yes, Emily, private investigator of the decade, my word. Yep, did a great job. Okay, so this was a result of that report that they decided that, we're going to have to train our staff. So they issued a tender. When they issue tenders, there's a lot of things that come into play. I told you last week in Investigations Uni, for those of you that saw it, that it's a fast-paced changing landscape in industry in Australia. Technology, cybersecurity, those sections are running away from government. Cryptocurrency. No one in particular, but all of them. They're running away from regulators because the processes that are in place are to be able to respond. They can't respond fast enough. So these governing oversight places like the CCC, that sort of thing, they're going to be looking at money laundering through the use of cryptocurrency and other things too, but they've got to train their staff in it. The law and the legislation don't keep up with the problem. This is one of the things that was put in the report that identified IBAC as the model regulator, which that is not true, not true. ICAC, ICAC, more important. So what they do when they're regulating and training people, at the CCC or at ICAC or at IBAC or any of the other oversight places that are anti-corruption boards, They're checking that public servants aren't involved in this, politicians aren't, police aren't, all that sort of thing. So what they're saying is they're keeping fit people fit. So there are two sides. There's the regulators and the people that are bound by regulations. So whether it's banking or accountants or whatever it is, you sign today that you are not a terrorist when you buy a house. You have to sign a declaration that it's not funded by terrorism. It's just ridiculous. And so they're trying to keep up with it. And to their credit, the CCC issued a tender so that their staff could handle this. Now, what that means is basically their staff are going to go up to people who have been found guilty of money laundering. They're public servants. They're trying to move away from ex-police and train public servants, right? So you imagine a public servant. This is what a public servant looks like. We all know they wear cardigans. Okay, so here they are. They're going to go up to Mr. Outlaw Motorcycle Gang head person, Sergeant at Arms, and they're going to say, here is a bill for $5 million. Give us the codes to your wallet for your cryptocurrency. And they're going to take it off them. Now, that's quite laughable because a couple of people are in cardigans, but what happens is if they train them to do it and build their capacity like we've talked about at Investigations Uni, right, in other areas, then it becomes the big-sized cardigan with the big qualification, and you know what you're doing. You've been trained in it. There's been a tender issued in it, and your workplace has backed you into it and paid for it for you. That's what's happened. So it's pretty good. It's rare, and it's pretty good. Mostly they'll do 2 people, 3 people. Here, I think there's up to 18 people at the CCC doing it, which is quite amazing. So well done. They've tried to improve it. They've identified the problem. They're trying to keep up with it. It's all about resources, context, and timing. Okay, you send out a regulator into a prison or a correctional facility, whatever you want to call it, and they go up to the person that's been money laundering. They're going to say, here's a bill. Give me your wallet and we'll call it quits. All right. That's what they're going to be doing. And they're going to be trained in how to do it, how to store the money, how to ask for it. And it's going to go in Queensland. It's going to go into consolidated revenue. Now, they can say no, right? I'm not doing that. And, I'm not guilty of it or whatever. In Queensland, if you're a public servant or you're a criminal, the Criminal Conduct Commission has strong powers. They have a star chamber and they can call you to a commission of inquiry that's closed, it's private, and they can compel you to ask questions. If you don't know what it means, look up Chris Nist's website and see Uncommon Commodity. Go there and read his articles about the Star Chamber at the CCC. And think about what would happen if you ever end up in there because you are part of some kind of corruption investigation. Chris takes no prisoners and he tells you what it's going to be like. So it's very interesting. The Star Chamber at the CCC, it's closed, private, and you can be compelled to ask questions. Queensland has that power over criminals and public servants. You can be called to a place of parade and compelled to answer questions. If you do not answer the question, you can commit perjury and you can go to a correctional facility. G'day, Chantel. Great to see you. Really good. Thanks for checking in. So that's the power of the CCC, where these people are working, dealing with organised crime, grabbing the proceeds of crime, including the digital assets, cryptocurrency, the houses, the residences, the flash cars, as we saw in this program last week, and putting it into consolidated revenue where we want to go, and that's going to pay for the investigation or the court or whatever it's going to pay for. That's the Criminal Conduct Commission came out with a tender in early 2025. We talked about tenders in Investigations Uni, 3 programs last year. Here they are. I'll show them to you. We've got them listed here. You can see we did it in episode 79 with Sean Delaney. We did it in episode 81 with Sean Delaney. And we did it in episode 84 of Investigations Uni with Sean Delaney. So we teach not only our students, but our investigation agencies how to do that. And remember what I said, you could blow a $5 million contract with a government department for WorkSafe or the MAIB or the TAC or the MAIC, all these places that employ investigators, or WorkSafe New South Wales or Comcare, all these people that employ mass investigators, you could blow that tender just by doing something wrong. Professional Investigators College of Australia owner Paul Harmer attempted to bribe 2 RTOs back in 2021. Both RTOs knocked back his offer. This is pretty serious stuff. They were licensed private investigators. They refused his offer. One of them was the head of the New South Wales Police Integrity Squad that used to test police integrity. And this ex-police officer from Professional Investigative College of Australia, through a third party, offered him a $145 bribe to participate in what ex-police call a joke, right? That's what they call it when they have a scam, between International Security Training Academy and Professional Investigators College of Australia. International Security Training Academy were pulling out of it and leaving Professional Investigators College of Australia without the opportunity to continue the scam. Queensland contract conditions for tenders, okay, include no advertising in relation to winning the tender. Okay, you can't go out and win a tender and then use it to advertise your business. You can't say, we've got the TAC tender and we're the best investigation agency in Victoria. You can't do that unless you've got written consent for that. So you can't use it in your marketing. You can't photograph the head chairperson of the government organisation or the deputy of the government organisation and put it on your Facebook page. You can't put it on your Instagram page. As soon as you do, you're in breach of the conditions of your Queensland tender. That's Section C under General 22. In 2021, the CEO of Professional Investigations College of Australia gave his students in his investigation certificate in investigative services class for the Toowoomba City Council, the Brisbane City Council and the Sunshine Coast Council an exercise to do on the floor in class. Get away from the tables and do it on the floor. This is the CEO of Professional Investigators College of Australia. He then went round behind them without their knowledge or consent, and he took photographic images of them and he shared those photographic images without their knowledge or consent, written or verbal, on social media. Once those images are on the web, they're there forever. The problem with this in a teaching and learning environment is not only the creepiness, it's the power imbalance of the teacher, assessor, and the student. Okay, if you want to pass this course and get your certificate as required by your employer, you'll do what I say or want and shut up, or you can fail and not get your nationally recognised qualification. It's a power imbalance that's unfair on students in any school, in any learning environment. It's the kind of behaviour It isn't just limited to males. It can be done by females and have been done in the past. But it's a kind of behaviour that's abhorred by people in vocational education and training. The CCC, with the tender that they issued in 2025, were looking to include more civilian investigators. Naturally, civilian investigators are going to require the training in the Certificate for and Government Investigation. Now, they may have a degree in accounting or 2 accounting degrees, but they don't have any training in investigation. So that's why they were going to do the Certificate for Investigative Services as part of their capacity building in that organisation. Because the report, written a couple of years back about the CCC and IBAC being the glowing example, suggested that they second less police officers and bring into the organisation more civilians. That's fine. They do that all around Australia. ICAC do that. IBAC do that. Okay. They all do it. Nothing wrong with that. They're just trying to mix up the talent that they've got. Doesn't mean there's no talented police officers that can be seconded there with accounting degree. There's plenty of them, right? It's just something that they were trying to do, and this is what resulted in the need for the training. A photographic image or a student or a public service manager used intentionally without knowledge or consent compromises the workplace's function, independence, public confidence, and future compliance enforcement interactions. If you're going to be dealing with a criminal organisation and they've got a sniff, or their lawyer's got a sniff, that there's issues with bribery, corruption, licensing, photographs and consent and written consent and marketing and written consent, they're going to use that in their defence moving forward. Every oversight organisation, similar to Criminal Conduct Commission, such as IBAC, ICAC, the Tasmanian Integrity Authority, they know that, which is why you don't get your photo taken or have your organisations use it in their marketing on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or anywhere else. Professional Investigators College of Australia had 120 issued CPP 30607 Certificate 3 in Investigative Services qualifications cancelled by the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division. Equally, any private investigator licences issued as a result of that between the International Security Training Academy and Professional Investigators College of Australia were cancelled. Queensland tender requirements are zero tolerance for domestic violence and family violence. That's in the tender requirements for Queensland. The organisation trying to win the tender is saying, look, we agree with that. So what's the problem with taking images of students in a class, female, without their knowledge or consent? If a boyfriend, husband, father, brother, or cousin takes exception to that image being put up without knowledge or consent of his friend, associate, relative, wife, cousin, sister, whatever, and goes into the Toowoomba Council, the Brisbane Council, or the Sunshine Coast Council and behaves inappropriately towards staff there about that matter, that's a workplace health and safety issue for those councils. It's another reason why it's just not ever done. When they sign these tenders to put them forward to the Queensland Government organisation, they say that we have no conflicts of interest. And this was done by Professional Investigators College of Australia. The Queensland CCC's definition of what corrupt behaviour is is it's part 2. It says fraud relating to an application for a license, permit, or other authority under an act with a purpose or object of any of the following, however described: protecting health and safety, protecting the environment, protecting or manage the use of the state's natural, cultural, mining or resources, that sort of thing. It's all there. Corrupt conduct in relation to licensing. When the organisation who awarded the tender becomes aware of past issues with cancelled qualifications in Victoria that they were unaware of at the time, they can issue a show cause notice. If they're not happy, they can issue a notice of suspension in relation to that contract. That's within the powers, and withdraw that organisation from the contract. So in Queensland, at the CCC, there is now a real problem. They've got to sort it out, and they will say, oh, look, that will come with our normal processes and procedures. The damage that can be done whilst waiting that could be quite serious. If the Queensland leader of the opposition got a sniff of this story, they've been trying to attack the Premier of Queensland on his association with an RTO for the last 8 months, ever since he won the election. He skillfully avoided answering the question. He didn't do anything wrong, but they want to make mud stick. This is not a good situation to be in Queensland currently, in relation to the watchdog in charge of money laundering and who they chose to do their training in that contract. Now, they probably had a choice of 10, 16 organisations. Each one of those organisations, CEO, every year signs off that they are aware of what's going on at their organisation. If these things happened in the last year, since, I don't know, 2020, 2021, 2022, the CEO signs off every year on how they've fixed those issues. And they can go there, ask of the regulator, and see and check on that and see that it's been done. Now, if that's missing and it hasn't been addressed, again, that's an omission that the watchdog wasn't aware of. The other big issue in relation to International Security Training Academy and Professional Investigator College of Australia is they did not have a partnership arrangement registered with ASQA, the regulator, to train and assess CPP 30607 in Victoria in a partnership arrangement. It has to be written, it has to be detailed, and it has to be registered with ASQA. Now, there are 4,000 RTOs in Australia. 3,999 of them have 40,000 training agreements registered with ASQA. Professional Investigators College of Australia and International Security Training Academy didn't. Another omission. Tenders, as we have pointed out, in Investigations Uni at episode 79, episode 81 and episode 84 are an essential part of capacity building in government. They're not designed for organisations to promote themselves with images of staff, images of students, that sort of thing. If it happens, the contract can be torn up. And that's just from an investigator doing the wrong thing if it's with WorkSafe New South Wales or the TAC in Victoria. If it's from a CEO, that's quite something else. Yeah, good point. Good point. Okay, so what happened with the 120 plus licences that were issued by the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division when they found out about this joke scam by the ex-police who were doing it through the International Security Training Academy and Professional Investigators College of Australia, they cancelled all the licences they issued. So therefore they couldn't get mutual recognition on the licence because it was cancelled. Because what New South Wales, when you apply for your mutual recognition, and Tasmania and Western Australia, everybody else do, is they ask, have you ever had a licence cancelled? That's one of the checks. You've got a good point. It's a slippery way around that people could have worked around the system, but they didn't have a licence to do it with. Now, the fact that they cancelled the qualification submitted to the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division falsely, right, and fraudulently by deception, without a training agreement, without approved instructors, without an approved course, without an approved course registered and vetted by the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division as required under their conditions of approval for RTOs, and there was no agreement registered with ASPA, the qualifications were cancelled as well. So if the person then used that qualification to go to New South Wales or Queensland and get a qualification there, it would have been very difficult for them, because in Victoria, they have a different qualification system. When you receive your qualification in Victoria, it doesn't look like the one you get in New South Wales or in Queensland or Tasmania or Western Australia or South Australia. It's a one-page document, and they would knock it back and you wouldn't be able to use it. Good question. Very good question. It's not the fault of the student. You are absolutely spot on. The student was told by those two RTOs, this is legitimate. Now, the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division looked into it. They said, no, we're not having this, and they cancelled the qualifications. Why didn't they go and pursue this and avoid the CCC in Victoria, all the issues it's got, which are going to be expensive, very expensive. This is why didn't the police in Victoria who cancelled those qualifications go to ASQA, the regulator, or charge them with offences, that sort of thing? Well, they're underfunded, the Victorian police. They're under-resourced. They're not going to go and chase after people in Queensland and New South Wales and stuff like that, interview them there and find out they know what went on. So they just cancelled the qualification. They put an end to it. It's a good job. It put an end to it. Now, it was only 120. One's enough, right? But 120, and they cancelled all of them. G'day, Marie. Great to see you. Get in touch with me. Send me an email, please, Marie. It'd be lovely to hear from you. All right. So, did the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division fail in its regulatory obligation? No, it didn't. It just stopped fraud by deception in their organisation in relation to the conditions of approval for training. That's what it did. They do work with ASQA, the regulator, in relation to these matters. I would say ASQA would have been busy too. ASQA were well aware of it. There was a complaint made about it to ASQA and they didn't do anything, which that really goes in the CCC favour in this case. Well, The issue with the students is the Victorian police will say, this is private. We're not giving you away their confidential information. You go and locate them yourself, mate. And then they've got to talk to each other, but they didn't go to a class. They don't know each other. They don't know who each other were. So they got one person's going to come forward and say, oh yeah, this happened to me. Yeah, it's going to cost them thousands to put up a case against any, and the Victorian police say, we're just doing our job with the regulator. That's what we do. That's what we're here for, to stop that. We're not having fraud and corruption, and they're pretty good. They come to me and they go, oh, can you confirm that this qualification's real? And I have a look at it and yeah, that is. Can you confirm that this one's real? No, that's not one of mine. Right. So they're very good. They check thoroughly. So do New South Wales SLED. They check thoroughly, really, really thoroughly. So as dramatic as it all seems, any one of those licensing authorities, they can just stop the qualification, stop the license. A court can take the license off a private investigator like that. Any court in Australia can. Instantly, if you misbehave in court. They've got the power to do it. Quite freaky. So giving evidence in court as a private investigator is another level. It's just like being in the Star Chamber and get on Chris Nice's website and see it. So what you're looking at here is regulatory compliance failure by the people that the CCC relied on as the national regulator, ASQA, leading to the issue. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy. I hope you've enjoyed episode 319 of Investigations, Spy Curious. We'll be back next week with episode 320. Don't forget those jobs on our job page. There's job Brian F. Davis in New South Wales. They're after factual investigator. Get over there and have a look at that one. Quantum Corp are after investigators all around the country. Allied Universal, just like Nemesis Consulting, are seeking people to do compliance investigations in Victoria. And they're also after desktop investigators as well. Andrew Davis from SIG Group in New South Wales wants to hear from you if you're a licensed investigator. Get in touch with Andrew. You have to have a company if you work for Andrew. So that's really important. Thanks, Courtney. Thanks for watching. Very informative, different program about regulatory compliance and tenders. A lot ahead of this and a lot as a result of it. See you next week, people. Thank you for watching. I'm going out in our usual way.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.